Mario Kart Super Circuit is the third installment in the Mario Kart series, and I only recently played it for the first time, as there are so many tracks within this game that have never been recreated in a mainline Mario Kart game. And compared to the only other 2D Mario Kart game, this is bursting with personality. Instead of just repeating the same 7 themes, this game has a lot more locations that it explores, and considering how good the recent GBA remakes have been, I wanted to go through the entire game and rank each course by how much I'd like to see it return in the Booster Course Pass. Being the first track in the game, I'm glad it's not too basic compared to something like Figure 8 Circuit, but I think it goes without saying that this wouldn't be the most exciting track to bring back, especially for the later waves where the tracks should be more complex and difficult. So that's gonna be a please no from me. This is a big step up from the previous track, as there's a lot more danger here. Bombs are being fired by the pirate ship, crabs are scattered all throughout the course, and you can even fall out of bounds. You can even get comboed by the stupid crabs in the deep water. Whilst I think it has some cool elements to it, the layout is quite basic, and I don't think we'll get anything better than the Wii version of the track, so therefore I'll put it in Eh. This track was just added in Wave 4, and I think they did an excellent job with the remake. However, there's a track later on with the same theme that I think would have been a better choice, but we'll get into that later. I don't know why, but this game seems to be obsessed with Bowser's Castle, as this is only one of 4 castle tracks in the game, and with it being first, it kinda gets outshined by the later tracks, as they only get more interesting. It's still decently fun, but I don't really want to see it. Normally, I wouldn't have wanted a track like this in the game, but I've gotta say, I really like the remake of this one, so it does give me hope that if they bring back one of the more basic tracks, that maybe it'll turn out like this. The fact that this is only the second Bowser's Castle, and they've turned the heat up considerably, only shows the later Bowser's Castles are gonna get better and better. There is much more danger in this track, as there's plenty of thwomps, sharp turns with no barricades, and a lot of lava pits. Traversing this section especially is really exhilarating. However, I feel that a lot of the excitement of this track comes from how this game controls, as dodging the pits and avoiding the thwomps is made a lot harder with the loose controls. So within Mario Kart 8, I wouldn't be too excited for this track. Luigi Circuit is one of the best circuit tracks in the entire series, as the slippery surface coupled with the twisty nature of the track results in a very difficult yet fair race. This course has already been remade within Mario Kart DS, but I feel as if this version will forever be the best version of the track. As much like the last course, many of the turns and features of the track just feel better suited towards this game. I would still like to see it though. Now hear me out, I know this track is already in the Booster Course Pass, but it is a completely different version from this. This version is better in pretty much every way possible. So the only reasonable thing to happen is for Nintendo to patch this track in the next update. And by patch, I mean just completely replace the new Sky Garden with this one. Now this course is freaking evil. For me, this was the hardest track within the game, as I managed to fall in the water at almost every turn. This area especially. It doesn't look that hard, but I would just constantly slip on the sand and just miss the bridge. Now, before I mentioned how you could get comboed by the crabs in deep water, and let me just say, every single crab here has made it their duty to combo you. I especially hate this one that's right near the end of the race. Even though this is an insanely difficult course, I've had a lot of fun with this track, as you're able to optimize it just by jumping around, and you can even skim on the water for a bit to avoid falling off. Whilst I know it won't be as hard as this version, I would love to see how this looks within Mario Kart 8. To close off the Thunder Cup, we have yet another banger. Whilst not as hard as the previous track, this is still quite difficult. It feels like a continuation of the Choco themed tracks from the original game, as it's set in the desert with lots of mud and ramps within. But the track layout is constantly twisting around, with a lot of shortcut potential. There are also some TPs with Shy Guys in them, that if you run into, they'll jump on your car and, well, I don't really know what they do, but whatever it is, it looks kinda funny. Another great thing about this track is the atmosphere. This to my knowledge is the only track where the time of day changes, so we're given a beautiful background throughout the whole race that's constantly changing. I would love to see this track brought back if not for all the reasons I've already mentioned, than to finally figure out what these giant pieces of poo actually are. I do think this is a pretty decent track for a desert course, however, desert tracks have never really been my thing, and there's already so many desert themed tracks in the game. But considering this track has never reappeared in any other Mario Kart game, it does make me want to see how it will be remade. I know I said before that the Bowser Castle tracks only got better and better, but I lied, as this version has taken a lot of the danger out. I mean, the narrow bridge at the end is cool, but most of the track is restricted to within the walls, and compensates by just adding a shit ton of thwomps. Considering this track was pretty mediocre in the Wii version, I'm gonna pass on this one. So here's the better version of Riverside Park I was talking about. As you can tell by the minimap, the layout is way more chaotic. And this is just amplified by the volcano, as it will shoot down volcanic rocks that you have to avoid from time to time. There's also a section where if you slide too far, you'll be launched to earlier in the track. It's so freaking evil, but I love it. Even though I feel that this is a superior track to Riverside Park in every way, I seriously doubt it'll be added to the Booster Course Pass. And honestly, with all the other cool themes within this game, I would prefer they bring something else over. But it's still a great track, and I wouldn't be upset if it appeared. Much like the last track, this is a really good course. And if it was a Super Circuit ranking video, I would put this track near the top. However, because this is about what tracks would be best for the Booster Course Pass, I just can't see this being the best choice. It's a very difficult track that involves you jumping across gaps and traversing very narrow areas, but it feels so suited for this game, as hopping around the track and jumping over the gaps just wouldn't have the same feel within Mario Kart 8. On top of that, Boo Lake was added in Wave 3, so it feels unlikely they'll have another track with the same aesthetic. So this track is just above Lakeside Park. The fourth and final Bowser's Castle is the only one that has never been remade, and that is really unfortunate, as this is the best Bowser's Castle by a long shot. Everything that's established in the previous versions is brought back but cranked up to 100. In this section you have to carefully navigate the lava pits, as you just instantly die if you touch it. The thwomps are a lot more menacing, as their positioning gets in the way more often than not. Overall, the whole layout of the track is purposefully tight and challenging, and I'm all for it. Even though this theme feels overdone, I would love to see a truly challenging Bowser's Castle in Mario Kart 8. Rainbow Road is always the final track, and therefore it gains the reputation of the hardest track in the game. But I feel like in recent times, each reiteration seems to get a bit easier. Thankfully with this track, it really does deliver on being the final challenge for this game, as there are no barricades in this track, only these jumpy things and death. And let me just say, I think this is the most difficult Rainbow Road out there. Even though Wii's Rainbow Road is a lot more complex with its track design, this course utilizes the ramps so well that you can constantly challenge yourself to do better and better every race. The world record for this course is just mesmerizing to watch. And then we go to my footage, and you can see how challenging this is for most people. I absolutely adore this Rainbow Road, but like most tracks that use these ramps, I just can't see this version within Mario Kart 8. I mean, try to imagine doing this within Mario Kart 8. It just wouldn't work. However, I still see this as a must-have. SNES Rainbow Road showed us how even a really basic layout could be a ton of fun. And even if this track doesn't have the insane ramp jumping, with the layout alone being this crazy, I think this will be even better than SNES Rainbow Road, as long as there's no barricades and the track width remains the same. So here's the complete tier list of what GBA tracks I think should reappear. It's honestly surprising how many GBA tracks have never reappeared. And like, why did they have to bring back every Bowser's Castle except for the best one? For most of my life, I kinda just assumed Super Circuit would be a lot like the SNES Mario Kart, as most of the remakes brought back in the DS and Wii version weren't that great. But after playing it, I realized this game is way better than I thought it would be. And now Nintendo has the opportunity to bring back some of these amazing tracks to us. Realistically, I doubt there'll be more than 2 GBA tracks brought back, as there's already so many in the game and only a limited amount of spots left. But hopefully, it's one of these ones.